Yeah, I don't know any sales leader that hasn't struggled with that very dilemma. And I think it's really important to keep the end game in mind, right? Because like, of course, like you can jump in at every turn, especially with the calls that you've been invited in to help with. And
Mhm.
you may win that deal. You may do a better job. You probably will because you have more experience and you can ultimately provide a better experience for the customer.
Yeah.
But if you keep the end game in mind, you're doing a disservice both to customers of the future and certainly to the AE on your team. And so, in my experience, the best way to partner with those AEs is just relentless preparation in advance of that.
Mm,
It's not always the easiest thing to do when you have time constraints and when you are a leader, both juggling a bag and that of your team. But ultimately, if you do make sure, and all of the AEs know when bringing me onto a call, for example, like there needs to be a role assigned, not only to me, but to any other cross functional partner that we might be bringing on. And the AE knows their role, right? And when you make a real clear delineation between what's expected of the leader on the call and the AE on the
mhm.
call, it really does help to avoid those oversteps. And I think one of the most useful parts of that preparation process when working with an AE, especially one that's maybe a bit more on the junior side, is you want to anticipate the possible objections or really any other questions that may come up and do a bit of scenario planning and then walking
Mhm.
through that with them in advance. It always helps because they're not going to get blindsided, or at least they're much less likely to get blindsided. And I
Yeah.
think that's been one of the best ways. And the more trust that you demonstrate you have in the AE, the better served they are, as is the relationship that you have with that AE going forward. So ultimately, you do have to, as hard as it is, take a step back because the long game is the better play.
You're listening to Accords from Vendorship to Partnership. For more sales and startup insights like this, please be sure to subscribe here or at inaccord.com/podcast. Thanks for listening.